Good morning, good morning. I'm early. You silly boy. He's gonna want my attention even though I'm busy right this minute because I'm live and that's when he wants to play. Like normal. Oh, been a long weekend, man. Long weekend. Figured I wear a hat today. I don't wear a hat. Hello, Ash. So I decided to go live a few minutes early so I could get people in here before I start. Um, so yeah. Anyway, today's AA day. I'm sorry I took Sunday off. I just figured I wanted to spend time with my mom, and so yeah. Um, so being able to spend time with her is important. Seeing as I don't know when it's going to be her time, so I like to try to spend some time with her. I don't get to see her every week or anything like that, but so but I don't think I did a meeting on Tuesday before. I don't know. So I really needed to do a meeting today. Um, just a minute. All right. So let's say hi to Lily T, my twin sister, best friend. Thank you for always being here and supporting me through all of my adventures of YouTube and AA. It does make it a little easier to have friends and people that you know join you on your sobriety journey. I'm so lucky that I have my whole family and my friends that back me up on it. And when I'm feeling that, I just want to give in to that impulse. Um, I know I have people that I can call and they'll answer the phone anytime, day or night, no matter what. And some people don't have that. And so I know I'm very blessed to have that. I'm blessed to be sober and I'm blessed to be able to share my journey with everybody here. So, anyways, So I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So now we are in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. I'm going to be reading 2 steps today because the first one is short and sweet. So that's just what I say, anyways. I am a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober since November 15th of 2014. So, yeah. My sister's coming up right behind me on her 10 year. So I'm excited for her and for that. So let's go ahead and get into the steps, which are in the front of your 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all the defective characters. 7. We humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So I'm just going to skip all the first stuff and go right into step 1, which is on page 21. I always put in the description what we're reading and the page number and the story or step or tradition we're working on. So, step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that, glass in hand. We have warped our minds into such an obsession for destruction or destructive drinking that only an act of providence can remove it from us. No other kind of bankruptcy is like this one. Alcohol now become the rapacious creditor, bleeds us all of self-sufficiency and all will to resist its demands. Once this stark fact is accepted, our bankruptcy as going human concern is complete. But upon entering AA, we soon take quite another view of this absolute humiliation. We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first step towards liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. Quit. Now. Copper. Enough. Crazy dog. We know that little good can come to an alcoholic who joins AA unless he has first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences. Until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precautious of real happiness. He will find none at all. Proved beyond doubt by an immense experience, this is one of the facts of AA life. The principle that we shall find no enduring strength until we first admit complete defeat in the main taproot from which our whole society has sprung and flowered. Hey, Tony. When first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolt. We have approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good, whatever. In fact, it was a total liberty, or liability. Sorry, guys. Our sponsors declare that were the victim of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. There was, they said, no such thing as the personal conquest of this compulsion, but by the unaided will, relentlessly deepening our dilemma. Our sponsors pointed out our increasing sensitivity to alcohol, an allergy, they called it. The tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by an insane urge to condemn us to go on drinking, and then by an allergy of the body that ensured we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. Few indeed were those who, so assailed, had ever won through in single-handed combat. It was a statistical fact that alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources. And this had been true, apparently, ever since men had first crushed grapes. In a pioneering time, none but the most desperate cases could swallow and digest this unpalatable truth. Even these little gaspers often had difficulty in realizing how hopeless they actually were. But a few did, and when these laid hold of AA principles with all the fervor with which the drowning seas life preservers, they almost invariably got well. That is why the first edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, published when our membership was small, dealt with low bottom cases only. Many less desperate alcoholics tried AA, but did not succeed because they could not make the admission of hopelessness. It is a tremendous satisfaction to record that in the following years this changed. Alcoholics who still had their health, their families, their jobs, and even 2 cars in the garage began to recognize their alcoholism. As this trend grew, they were joined by young people who were scarcely more than potential alcoholics. They were spared that last 10 or 15 years of literal hell the rest of us had gone through, since step one requires an admission that our lives have become unmanageable. How could people such as these take this step? It was obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had hit to the point where it would hit them. By going back in our own drinking histories, we could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control. That our drinking, even then, was no mere habit. That it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters, we could say, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. In the mind, meanwhile, what we have told you about alcoholism, this attitude brought immediate and practical results. It was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another the true nature of the malady, that person could never be the same again. Following every spree, he would say to himself, maybe those AAs were right. After a few such experiences, often years before the onset of extreme difficulties, he would return to us convinced he had hit bottom. As truly as any of us, John Barleycorn himself had become our best advocate. Why all this intense insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom. For practicing AA's remaining 11 steps mean the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. Who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant, who wants to confess his faults to another and make restitution for harm done. Who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer? Who wants to sacrifice time and energy in trying to carry AA's message to the next sufferer? No, the average alcoholic, self-centered and extreme, doesn't care for this prospect, unless he has to do these things in order to stay alive himself. Under the lash of alcoholism, we are driven to AA, and there we discover that fatal nature of our situation. Then and only then do we become as open-minded to conviction and as willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from us. Step 2. Come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The moment they read step 2, most AA newcomers are confronted with a dilemma, sometimes a serious one. How often have we heard them cry out, Look what you people have done to us. You have convinced us that we are alcoholics and that our lives are unmanageable, having reduced us to a state of absolute helplessness. You now declare that none but a higher power can remove our obsession. Some of us won't believe in God, others can't, and still others who do believe that God exists have no faith. Whatever, He will perform this miracle. Yes, you've got us over the barrel, all right. But where do we go from here? Let's look first at the case of the one who says he won't believe, the belligerent one. Hi, Ava. He is in a state of mind which can be described only as savage. His whole philosophy of life, in which he so gloried, is threatening. It's bad enough. He thinks to admit alcohol has him down for keeps, but now, still smarting from that admission, he is faced with something really impossible. How he does cherish the thought that man, risen so majestically from a single cell in the primordial ooze, is the spearhead of evolution. And stop chewing yourself. You're going to get that cone on your head. Do you want me to put this on? Knock it off. Trying to keep him from chewing himself. He's got a rash everywhere. Still can't figure out how to get rid of it. And therefore, the only God that his universe knows, must he renounce all this to save himself? At this juncture, his AA sponsor usually laughs. This, the newcomer thinks, is just about the last straw. This is the beginning of the end. And so it is the beginning of the end of his old life and the beginning of his emergency into a new one. His sponsor probably says, take it easy. The hoop you have to jump through is a lot wider than you think. At least I've found it so. So did a friend of mine who was a one-time vice president of the American Atheist Society, but he got through with room to spare. Well, says the newcomer, I know you're telling me the truth. It's no doubt a fact that AA is full of people who once believed as I do. But just how, in these circumstances, does a fellow take it easy? That's what I want to know. That, agrees the sponsor, is a very good question indeed. I think I can tell you exactly how to relax. You won't have to work at it very hard. Either listen, if you will, to these three statements. First, Alcoholics Anonymous does not demand that you believe anything. All of its 12 steps are but suggestions. Second, to get sober and stay sober, you don't have to swallow all of step 2 right now. Looking back, I find that I took it piecemeal myself. Third, all you really need is a truly open mind. Just resign from the debating society and quit bothering yourself with such deep questions as whether it was the hen or the egg that came first. Again, I say, All you need is the open mind. The sponsor continues. Take, for example, my own case. I had a scientific schooling. Naturally, I respected, venerated, even worshiped science. As a matter of fact, I still do. All except the worship part. Time after time, my instructors held up to me the basic principle of all scientific progress, search and research, again and again, always with the open mind. When I first looked at AA, my reaction was just like yours. This AA business, I thought, is totally unscientific. This I can't swallow. I simply won't consider this nonsense. Then I woke up. I had to admit that AA showed results, results. I saw that my attitude regarding these had been anything but scientific. It wasn't AA that had the closed mind, it was me. The minute I stopped arguing, I could begin to see and feel. Right there, step 2, gently and very gradually began to infiltrate my life. I can't say upon which occasion or upon what day I came to believe in a power greater than myself, but I certainly have that belief now. To acquire it, I had only to stop fighting and practice the rest of AA's program enthusiastically as I could. This is only the one man's opinion based on his own experience, of course. I must quickly assure you that AA's tread inimitable path in their quest for faith. If you don't care for the one I've suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits if only you look and listen. Many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. Here's a very large group of people who have solved their alcohol problem. In this respect, they are certainly a power greater than you. You have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have faith in them. Even this minimum of faith will be enough. You will find many members who have crossed the threshold just this way. All of them will tell you that once again their faith broadened and deepened, relieved of the alcohol obsession. Their lives unaccountably transformed. They came to believe in a higher power, and most of them began to talk to God. Consider next the plight of those who once had faith but have lost it. There will be those who have drifted into indifference, those filled with self-sufficiency who have cut themselves off, those who have become prejudiced against religion, and those who are downright defiant because God has failed to fulfill their demands. Quit. Quit. Can AA experience tell all these they may still find a faith that works? Sometimes it comes harder to those who have lost or rejected faith than to those who never had any faith at all. For they think they have tried faith and found it wanting. They have tried the way of faith and the way of no faith. Since both ways have proved bitterly disappointing, they have concluded there is no place whatever for them to go. The roadblocks and indifference, fancied self-sufficiency, prejudice, and defiance often prove more solid and formidable for these people than any erected by the unconvinced, agnostic, or even the militant atheist. Religion says the acceptance of God can be proved. The agnostics say it can't be proved, and the atheist claims proof of the non-existence of God. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain in even a small degree of the assurance of the believer, the agnostic or atheist. He is the bewildered one. Any number of AAs can say to the drifter, yes, we were diverted from the childhood faith too. The overconfidence of youth was too much for us. Of course, we were glad that that good home and religious training had given us certain values. We were still sure that we ought to be fairly honest, tolerant, and just that we ought to be ambitious and hardworking. We became convinced that such people or such simple rules of fair play and decency would be enough. I might not read this whole one today. No, I lost where I was. As material success founded upon no more than these ordinary attributes began to come to us, we felt we were winning at the game of life. This was exhilarating and it made us happy. Why should we be bothered with theological abstractions and religious duties, or with the state of our souls here and hereafter? The here and now was good enough for us. The will to win would carry us through. But the alcohol began to have its way with us. Finally, when all our scorecards read 0, and we saw that one more strike would put us out of the game forever, we had to look for our lost faith. It was in AA that we rediscovered it, and so can you. Let me turn my fan on, guys. A minute. Be right back. Sorry about that. I'm getting hot in here. Now we come to another kind of problem. The I don't like these words I cannot pronounce. Intellectually, right? Now where am I? Self-sufficient man or woman, to these many AAs can say, yes, we were like you, far too smart for our own good. We love to have people call us precautious. We use our education to blow ourselves up into prideful balloons. Though we were careful to hide this from others, secretly we felt we could float above the rest of the folks on our brain power alone. Scientific process told us there was nothing man couldn't do. Knowledge was all powerful. Intellect could conquer nature. Since we were brighter than most folks, so we thought, the spoils of victory would be ours for the thinking. The God of intellect displaced the God of our fathers. But quit now. I'll put that cone on you. Stop. Sorry, guys. Gotta try and keep him from chewing himself. Okay. Since we were brighter than most folks, so we thought, the spoil of victory would be ours for the thinking. The God of intellect displaced the God of our fathers. But again, John Barleycorn had other ideas. We who had won so handsomely in the walk turned into all-time losers. We saw that we had to reconsider or die. We found many in AA who once thought as we did. They helped us to get down to our right size. By their example, they showed us that humility and intellect could be compatible, provided we placed humility first. When we began to do that, we received the gift of faith, a faith which works. This faith is for you too. Another crowd of AAs say, we were plumb disgusted with religion and all its works. The Bible, we said, was full of nonsense. We could cite it chapter and verse, and we couldn't see the beauties for the bigots. In spot, its morality was impossibly good. In others, it seemed impossibly bad. But it was the morality of the religionists themselves that really got us down. We goaded over a hypocrisy, bigotry, and crushing self-righteousness that clung to so many believers, even in their Sunday best. How we loved to shout the damaging fact that millions of the good men of religion were still killing one another off in the name of God. This all meant, of course, that we had substituted negative for positive thinking. After we came to AA, we had to recognize that this trait had been an ego feeding proposition. In elaborating the sins of some religious people, we could feel superior to all of them. Moreover, we could avoid looking at them of our own shortcomings, self-righteousness, the very thing that we had completely or contemptuously condemned in others, was our own besetting evil. This phony form of respectability was our undoing so far as faith was concerned, but finally, driven to AA, we learned better. As psychiatrists have often observed, defiance is the outstanding characteristic of many in alcoholics. So it's no strange that lots of us have had our day at defying God Himself. Sometimes it's because God had not delivered us the good things of life, which we specified as a greedy child makes an impossible list for Santa Claus. More often, though, we had met up with some major calamity and to our way of thinking locked out because God deserted us. The girl we wanted to marry had other notions. We prayed God that she'd change her mind, but she didn't. We prayed for healthy children and we were presented with sick ones, or none at all. We prayed for promotions at business and none came. Loved ones upon whom we heartedly depended were taken from us by so-called acts of God. Then we became drunkards and asked God to stop that, but nothing happened. This was the unkindest cut of all. Damn this faith business, we said. When we encountered the fallacy of our defiance, we revealed at no time had we asked what God's will was for us. Instead, we had been telling Him what it ought to be. No man we saw could believe in God or defy Him too. Belief meant reliance, not defiance. In AA, we saw the fruits of this belief, and men and women spared from alcohol's final catastrophe. We saw them meet and transcend their other pains and trials. We saw them calmly accept impossible situations, seeking neither to run nor to recriminate. This was not only faith, it was faith that worked under all conditions. We soon concluded that whatever price in humility we must pay, we would pay. Now let's take a look at the guy full of faith, but still reeking of alcohol. I'm almost done, guys. He believed he is devout. His religious observance is scrupulous. He's sure he still believes in God, but suspects that God doesn't believe in him. He takes pledges and more pledges. Following each, he not only drinks again, but acts worse than the last time. Violently, he tries to fight alcohol, imploring God's help, but the help doesn't come. What then can be the matter? The clergyman, doctor, friends, and families, the alcoholic who means well and tries hard in a heartbreaking riddle. To most AAs, he is not. There are too many of us who have been just like him, and he found the riddle answer. This answer has to do with the quality of faith rather than its quantity. This has been our blind spot. We supposed we were humility when really we hadn't. Hopper, please stop. Now. We supposed we had humility when really we hadn't. We supposed we had been serious about religious practices when upon honest appraisal we found we had been only superficial. Or, going to the other extreme, we had wallowed in emotionalism and had mistaken it for true religious feeling. In both cases, we had been asking something for nothing. The fact was we really hadn't cleaned house so that the grace of God could enter us and expel the obsession. In no deep or meaningful sense had we ever taken stock of ourselves, made amends to those who we had harmed, or freely given to any other human being without any demand for reward. We had not even prayed rightly. We had only said, "Grant me my wishes," instead of "Thy will be done." The love of God and man we understood not at all. Therefore we remained self-deceived, and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity. Few indeed are the practicing alcoholics who have any idea how irrational they are, or seeing their irrationality can bear to face it. Some will be willing to term themselves problem drinkers, but cannot endure the suggestion that they are in fact mentally ill. They are abetted in this blindness by a world which does not understand the difference between sane drinking and alcoholism. Sanity is defined as soundness of mind. Yet no alcoholic sobriety analyzing his destructive behavior, whether the destruction fell on the dining room furniture or his own moral fiber, can claim soundness of mind for himself. Therefore, step 2 is a rallying point for all of us. Whether agnostic, atheist, or former believer, we can stand together on this step. True humility and an open mind can lead us to faith. And every meeting is an assurance that God will restore us to sanity if we rightly relate ourselves to Him. That was a long reading. But I can relate with step 1 and step 2. I've been sober for 10 years and a few months. And I still remember my attitude, my way of thinking, uh, the things that I would do. Now, I did admit I was an alcoholic before I ever went to AA. My way of admitting it, though, was by saying, I have depression. That was the first step for me. So I thought, anyway. So I got sober after hurting myself, of course. That's what we alcoholics do. We wait until something stupid happens. But I I face planted the stove and busted my eyebrow open. So I quit drinking. I stopped drinking for a year. I was so proud of myself. I was like, yeah, I made it a year. Until I bought my favorite drink and it was all in one bottle. And it was a 6-pack. Big mistake. That's all it took was that first sip. They were all gone after that. And I went right back out there. And I've had religious times in my life. I've, gone to church. I've uh, done all those things that I thought was going to help me in the way. And uh, I ended up pregnant at 17. And so I had my oldest son right before I turned 18. And so I didn't drink a lot when my kids were growing up, younger years of growing up. But I too, once I hit that, uh, making mistakes as I did after, I admitted getting pregnant, and that was a huge thing. I didn't want my parents to know that I had been active that way. And yeah, they found out for sure that I had been when I told them I was pregnant. Of course, you can't. I didn't even really show like I was pregnant though. Um, but yeah, so I got pregnant with my oldest, and I didn't drink for a very long time. And uh, I got with my husband when my son was 7.5 months old, and I didn't drink a lot right after we got together either. I drank the first night that we were together, um, and then I got pregnant with our son, our baby. I guess you can call him because he's the last one we had. But when I got to my 30s, that's where it all went. But as a teenager, though, I'd already started doing the praying thing about, please don't let me get caught and I won't do it again. And I did it every time, you know. And then when I hit my 30s and I became that alcoholic, I did it again. I always prayed for my own self. That never works. Never worked. I didn't get in trouble with the law. I didn't get in trouble in any way like that. I didn't get caught drinking and driving or any of that stuff. But I was not a very good person being completely honest, I was a bitch. Excuse my language, but I was. I was a big ass bitch. I didn't like people, and I wasn't scared to tell you. I I can tell you my real feelings now, but I'm not gonna go and cause conflict with somebody like I did then. Mainly with my sister. Telling the truth, my sister and I were doing our alcohol days together, and we didn't get along. We fought a lot, and I we don't do that anymore. We don't fight like that. I mean, we came to blows. Um, Literally, we were beating the crap out of each other on a basis, and but we there's more of us besides just the two of us that are alcoholics in our family. I have friends that are recovering alcoholics. I have family that are alcoholics that are recovering and still drinking, so I I try to get them to join in on being sober with me and helping them through doing these meetings because I can't see them all the time. Um, and helping my friends and my YouTube and Facebook families. Um, I do this for me as well as for all of you because uh, you can get sober and stay sober with help. And help is just a phone call away or a click away. Um, all you have to do is search AA meetings and you can find them everywhere, literally everywhere. Get the Daily Reflections app on your phone or tablet or Chromebook or whatever you have. Get the AA Daily Reflections on your phones, and there's the books are there, the all of it's there, and so I've been sober for 10 years, 5 months, and 28 days. It tells me on the top. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's the one I've used through the years. And I'm going to read that right now. May 13th, the easier, softer way. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 72. I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, especially when the pains of my drinking days hung over me like a dark cloud. But I soon heard at the meetings about the fellow member who just didn't want to take step 5 and kept coming back to meetings, trembling from the horrors of reliving his past. The easier, softer way is to take these steps to freedom from our fatal disease and to put our faith in the fellowship and our higher power. And with that, but yeah, it even has, you can listen to them for that app. So, but anyways, guys, I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad I'm able to do these meetings for everyone. And sorry I've been absent. I just my mind hasn't been wanting to do anything. So but gotta get back into it. Um but yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day and a good rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow morning at Ava Potterfield and Friends. Show and tell is tomorrow morning. So I got to get that picture taken and sent. So I love you guys, and let's say the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys.